Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's story was submitted by a fellow viewer. If you would like to submit one too, feel free to do so in the comments. Also, thank you everyone for 2,000 subscribers. Alright, now let's dive into today's story. After moving into that house, my life changed for the worse. I gained haunting memories and phobias, horrifying images stuck in my head that I'll never be able to shed. I was 23 at the time and had just gotten my first job, but it was out of state, and I had to move away from my family. It was a stressful time in my life. I felt mixed emotions about living in a house all by myself, so far away from my family in New Jersey. A mix of excitement and nervousness mostly. Of course, I didn't have much money at such a young age, so the house I was moving into was kind of old and run down. It was a fixer-upper, to put it lightly, but it did come with a good amount of furniture. I remember the night I arrived at the house after the long drive. It was probably close to 10. Lugging that giant duffel bag of clothes up to the empty house, dropping the bag on the porch, pushing the key into the keyhole, and turning it, unlocking more than just the door, but a whole new chapter of my life, the rest of my life of independence. Of course, at that time, I didn't know what I was really walking into. On that first night, I tried to familiarize myself with the house a bit. There was a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, a basement, 2 bedrooms upstairs and 2 bathrooms, one upstairs and one in the basement. I had the basic necessities furniture-wise, a fridge, an oven, a microwave, a couch, a bed, and such. All the floors were wooden and a bit creaky. It was more of an ideal place for an old woman, but the price was right. I was so exhausted that I just brushed my teeth and went to sleep on that old bed in the bedroom, not caring how dirty it might have been. That first night I laid awake for probably an hour, with the silence constantly being broken by cracks of wood and other house-weathering sounds. All was fine the next morning. I ate at the nearest IHOP, got some groceries, and headed back home. Getting out of my car, I saw a woman getting into her car. She noticed me. I gave her a wave and slowed down, half expecting her to come over and introduce herself. But all she did was return a wave before getting into her car and driving off. Now, I was used to having unfriendly neighbors, but there was something about the way she looked at me that made me uncomfortable. I detected a hint of worry on her face. I shrugged it off and went inside. I spent a better part of the night watching TV on the old rabbit-eared television that was left in the house. When I decided to call it a night, I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth. Out of habit, I still shut the door while in the bathroom, but while I was brushing my teeth, I heard the faint sound of a single knock on the bathroom door. I felt my heart drop and jumped back against the wall in response. The sound caught me off guard. It wasn't the sound of wood settling or anything like that. I distinctly heard the sound of a fist hitting the door. I reminded myself, I'm living on my own now. I'm a grown man. I have to be a man. I turned the knob and pushed the door open with force, lunging out into the black hallway, expecting to run into somebody, but there was nothing at all. I flipped the light switch in the hallway on. All the doors were shut just as they were before, except for the door to my bedroom. I took a deep breath and ran straight into the room, literally flailing my arms everywhere, expecting to hit somebody. I stopped and took a good look around. I was the only living soul in the room. So that was it. There was no other possible place an intruder could have gone. I would have definitely heard them running down the creaky old steps, and I would have heard any of the doors close. At this point, it was just my imagination, or more house noises. Maybe a mix of both. I had trouble falling asleep that night. I jumped at every little noise, paranoid of my surroundings. I was acting like a terrified little kid. After flipping over and trying to get comfortable for the 100th time, I noticed the door to my bedroom was open. From what I remembered, I had not left it open. Then I realized there was something poking in at the edge of the door. I sat up and tried to adjust my eyes to see what the hell that thing was. My eyes adjusted to the dark ever so slightly, but it was enough to make out the object. A face of a woman. She was undoubtedly staring at me, laying in my bed. I curled up in fear, screaming like a 5-year-old. The head moved from the doorway and out of sight. I threw my hand to the desk, shoving things to the floor as I desperately tried to find my phone. The feeling of the plastic case never felt so good as I dialed 911. I stayed curled up like a baby until the police arrived. I rushed down the stairs to the front door and let them in. I explained to the officers that somebody was in my house. One of the officers questioned me, asking how I knew, what they looked like, and where I saw them. I explained that I saw a woman poking her head into my bedroom, just staring at me. I told them it was too dark to make out any discernible features. The 2 officers rushed inside to look for an intruder as I sat by the curb, waiting with the other officer that came in a second patrol car. After about 20 minutes, the officers came out and told me they searched every single room and closet, but there was absolutely no sign of anybody. The officers proceeded to ask me some questions, eventually asking if I live alone, to which I responded that I just moved away from my family all the way in New Jersey. The officers looked at each other, and one stepped forward and claimed he knew what was going on. The officer said he's seen this happen many times before. When a young man or woman moves far away from their family, they often get homesick and start to think that they're seeing things, commonly the images of people. It didn't seem impossible. I had no other explanation. The officer assured me that nobody was in my house and that I just needed some time to get used to living alone. I thanked the officers, and they drove off into the night, leaving me to go back into the house. I decided to get out of the house to get my mind off of it. I went for another long bike ride, and when I got back, I went to the store again, specifically to buy the air fresheners. The fresh smell would definitely do my mind some good. Before getting in line to check out, I ran into Jerry from the orientation. We had a quick chat. I talked about my daily activities in the neighborhood, biking, shooting hoops at the park, and watching a lot of movies. He asked where I went biking since he knew of some great trails in the area. I told him I biked over by the woodsy side of the neighborhood, as it's only a few blocks away from my street. "What street is that?" he asked. To which I replied, "Maple Drive." A look of worry suddenly spread across his face, as he seemed to be instantly consumed by his phone, typing away. "What's wrong?" I asked him. He lifted the screen of the phone up to my face. "Is this where you live?" he asked. There was a picture on the screen of my house. "What? How did you know? Why is that picture online?" Jerry went on to explain that before me, there was a couple living there. The neighbors claimed they always heard the couple fighting and the sounds of glass breaking. Then he dropped a bomb. He told me that one day, the scream of the wife could be heard by all the surrounding neighbors, and shortly after, one of the neighbors found the woman's body with her head missing. This story was horrifying news to me. I had no idea about the house's history. I left the store shaking in my feet, feeling like my legs were getting weaker as I walked to my car. I got lunch at Wendy's and took a long detour back home, trying to think everything out. Things were starting to make sense. The low price, the old furniture, the broken glass. But one thing wasn't accounted for: the smell, the horrible odor in the house, specifically in that closet. What if something's in that closet? I had to get home and find out what was in that closet. After getting home, I immediately ran straight to the extra bedroom with the closet. I swung open the closet door, only to have a blast of foul air hit me right in the face. The smell seemed even more unbearable than before. I ravaged through the closet, throwing all the hanging ties and jackets out onto the king-sized bed. There was nothing at all. There was absolutely nothing else in here besides the ties and the jackets. It was just a regular closet. I felt a headache coming on. It didn't make any sense. I plugged the air freshener into the outlet in the closet and shut the door, not even bothering to hang the ties and jackets back up. I didn't understand where the odor was coming from, but it didn't matter anymore. The air freshener would take care of it. I walked out of the bedroom, but with the feeling of having missed something. I didn't really know what, but I felt like my brain was trying to tell me something. I didn't dwell on it, though. I was more focused on calling my mom and telling her about the history of the house. We were not warned or informed of this history, and I intended on making a case of it. I tried calling my mom 3 times, and on the 3rd ring, she finally picked up. She informed me that she was just getting home from a long and stressful drive during a snowstorm. I had completely forgotten it was cold in New Jersey. She told me to hang on, that she was taking her boots off, and then it hit me. Boots. The boots. My heart dropped. There were jackets and ties, but no boots. Where the hell were the boots that I saw in the closet 2 days ago? I turned to the bedroom door, and there it was. The head of the woman, peering down the hall at me. This time, I couldn't even get a scream out. The head began to move further out into the hall, until a tall body emerged into sight. It was someone in ragged, ripped clothing covered in bloodstains, and they were wearing the woman's face. The huge figure charged down the hall toward me, but I was already halfway down the stairs. The sound of the boots stomping on the stairs was right behind me as I tried to unlock and open the door. I felt 2 hands grab me and shove me to the floor. I lay defenseless in the corner, held down by the towering figure. With only my legs free, I had one option. I kicked the figure in the groin, and he collapsed down, groaning in pain. I thanked my lucky stars and pushed him off of me, freeing myself. I opened the front door and ran to my car, driving about 5 blocks away before calling the police. Unfortunately, the man was already gone when the police arrived. I had a pretty good idea of who the man was, and I gave a tip to the police. Of course, they already had a good idea as well, and it didn't really do them any good. I still don't understand how I mistook it for hallucinations, and I'm still trying to figure out where he managed to hide after each appearance. I think when he was at the edge of my bed, he simply hid under my bed for the rest of the night. and it only terrifies me to think what would have happened had I simply looked under. I don't know why he toyed with me, though. Why didn't this sick freak just kill me if that was his main goal? Or maybe it wasn't. Hopefully, I'll never know. It's scary to think that that man is still out there. I moved back with my family after that and refused to move back out of state. My dad helped me get my foot in the door for the company he works for, so I think I'm all right employment-wise. But I still think of the experience every night. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and I can swear that I see the woman's head peering over at me in my bed.